Have you ever woken up at 5 in the morning? Not because you wanted to, but because survival left you no other choice? Outside the window, it's still dark. The air is cold. The house is so quiet you can hear your own breathing. You sit up slowly, your body feeling heavy, as if it never truly rested. Yesterday is still there, and today has already begun. In that brief moment, before you stand up to wash your face, you ask yourself a question you've been avoiding for a long time. Is my life going to keep going like this forever? There's no sharp pain, no loud tragedy, just a quiet feeling that you are still alive, but not really moving anywhere. His name is Daniel. He is 30 years old, an age where dreaming freely no longer feels realistic, but giving up entirely feels too early. It's the age when responsibility becomes heavy, pressing down on your shoulders every day, even if you don't remember when it first arrived. Daniel works as a warehouse laborer for a logistics company. It's pure, manual labor, heavy, repetitive. His days begin early. At 5 in the morning, the alarm rings. Daniel gets up, not because he feels awake, but because his body has learned to leave the bed before it's ready. His home is far from work. If he wants to arrive on time, he has no choice but to leave earlier than everyone else. Most mornings, Daniel skips breakfast, not because he isn't hungry, but because he doesn't want to make noise and wake his wife and children in their small, crowded home. He drinks a glass of water, puts on his worn-out shoes, checks his old backpack, and steps into the dark street alone. Daniel is not lazy. He works hard. Life has simply never given him the chance to slow down and dream a little more. The warehouse comes alive early. When Daniel walks in, the air is thick with dust, oil, and sweat. Forklifts move constantly. Metal hits metal. It's a sound Daniel knows too well, so familiar that sometimes he doesn't even notice it anymore. His job is simple: lifting boxes, stacking pallets, moving goods from one place to another. But the repetition is what drains him the most. Each box he lifts carries not only its weight, but the thoughts in his head as well. At noon, Daniel eats a cold lunch quickly, leaning against a concrete wall. He chews without tasting, eating only to have the strength to continue. By afternoon, his back hurts. His hands feel numb. Yet when the manager asks who can stay for overtime, Daniel always nods. He knows he's exhausted. But he also knows that saying no means less money for his family at the end of the month. And so, every day looks the same. Early mornings, late nights. Daniel's life isn't collapsing, but it's so heavy, he doesn't know how long he can keep carrying it. No matter how many hours Daniel works, his paycheck is just enough to survive. Never comfortable, never secure. Rent must be paid on time. Food is non-negotiable. His children's education worries him the most. One small, unexpected expense is enough to ruin an entire month. At work, Daniel isn't the worst employee, but he's rarely respected. To many people, he's just a laborer, someone with no future. Some say it directly. Others say it half-jokingly. Still carrying boxes at 30? Why didn't you learn a real skill? This kind of job leads nowhere. Daniel laughs it off. He nods. He doesn't argue. But later, when he's alone, those words return. Slowly. Repeatedly. He starts to wonder if they're right. If his life is truly stuck here. Sometimes, the looks people give him hurt more than their words. They make him feel small, and somehow, not good enough anymore. Daniel Daniel rarely complains. Not because he has nothing to say, but because he doesn't know where to begin. At home, he stays quiet. He doesn't want his wife to worry more. She already carries enough. The children, the meals, the bills. Daniel doesn't want to become an emotional burden. But silence doesn't remove pain. It only stores it inside. Night after night, it builds. Some evenings, after coming home late, Daniel sits alone in the dark. He doesn't turn on the light. He leans against the wall, his hands covering his head. Tears fall quietly. Not because of one specific moment, but because exhaustion has lasted too long. He has tried. He has worked hard. He has done his duty as a husband and a father. And still, his life feels frozen. Sometimes, a frightening thought enters his mind. If I disappeared, would their lives be easier? That thought scares him deeply. Not because he wants to die, but because he realizes how tired he has become to even think such a thing. One evening, after another long, exhausting shift, Daniel stops at a red light on his way home. The city is quieter than usual. Streetlights reflect on wet pavement from an earlier rain. Daniel grips the handlebars, his mind empty. Across the street, he notices a man unloading goods from a small truck. The man looks exhausted, his back slightly bent, his shirt soaked in sweat. Every time he lifts a box, it looks like he's using the last strength he has left. But what catches Daniel's attention isn't the work. Nearby, 2 children are waiting. They don't complain. They don't run around. They simply stand there, watching him carefully. When the man turns around, they smile. A small, gentle smile. In that moment, Daniel's chest tightens. He no longer sees a stranger. He sees himself. A tired man, still standing, still trying for the people quietly waiting behind him. That night, Daniel comes home earlier than usual. Not early, just earlier than endless overtime days. The lights are still on. His children are awake. When they hear the door, they run toward him, wrapping their arms around his legs as if afraid he might disappear again. Daniel stands still. The exhaustion in his body softens. His wife comes out of the kitchen. Her face shows surprise and fatigue. "You're home early," she says quietly. Daniel looks at her. The dark circles under her eyes, the tired hands that never seem to rest. Then he looks at his children. They're taller now, older than he remembers. In that moment, Daniel understands something simple and heavy. His family doesn't need a perfect man. They don't need wealth or status. They just need him. Present. Truly there. Daniel doesn't wake up the next morning with a dramatic plan. No burning motivation. No promise to change everything overnight. Just one small decision. He wakes up 1 hour earlier than usual. That hour won't change the world. But it's enough to do things he always ignored before. He cleans the house quietly, washes the dishes from the night before, sweeps the floor, prepares a simple breakfast. Nothing special. No applause. No praise. But when his wife wakes up and sees the kitchen ready, she pauses. Daniel says nothing. He prepares for work as usual. But inside, for the first time in a long while, he doesn't feel completely powerless. He can't change everything, but he can change small things. Right here. And maybe this is where it truly begins. From that day on, Daniel begins adjusting his life. Not suddenly, not extremely. He still works, still lifts boxes, still feels tired. But he stops accepting overtime every night. That means less money, and that scares him. Yet instead of staying late at the warehouse, Daniel goes somewhere else. A small evening vocational class hidden in a quiet alley. He enrolls in machinery maintenance and repair. Not because he's sure it will make him rich, but because he needs another path. Even a narrow one. After long days of labor, he sits in class with aching legs and heavy eyes. Sometimes he struggles to stay awake. Sometimes he wants to quit. But whenever he imagines returning to his old life unchanged, he keeps going. Not because of motivation, but because he refuses to stand still. From the outside, Daniel's life doesn't look different. Same clothes, same job, same warehouse. But at home, everything feels different. He spends more time with his children, helps them study, even when he has to reread lessons himself. He listens to their small stories, stories he used to miss. At work, he slowly learned how to manage his time better, so he could review what he had studied. Some days, he even arrived early, sweeping the classroom, cleaning the whiteboard. He completed every assignment the teacher gave him. Sometimes his classmates praised his effort. It wasn't much, but it was enough motivation to keep him going. In the evenings, he helps his wife clean. They cook together. They eat quietly. His wife notices the change. Not through promises, but through his presence. One night she says, "You're different lately." Daniel smiles softly. "I'm trying." And this time, he knows it's true. Daniel's life doesn't transform in weeks. There are no miracles, no sudden opportunities. Work is still hard. Money still tight. Some nights after class, he wonders if it's worth it. But one thing is different. He no longer feels invisible. He no longer feels like he's just surviving. Slowly, he is learning something new. Quietly, he is moving forward. No one applauds his effort. No one sees it. It lives in the days he studies while exhausted. In mornings, he wakes earlier without being forced. Sometimes the hardest efforts are the ones no one notices. And they are often the most valuable. Daniel doesn't become rich. He doesn't quit his job overnight. He doesn't have a dramatic success story. But he changes. Not through one big decision, but through hundreds of small ones. Waking up earlier. Coming home sooner. Learning despite doubt. Life doesn't change direction in one day. It shifts through ordinary habits, repeated consistently. And maybe this is what many of us need to hear. You don't need to do something extraordinary to change your life. You just need to pause, look honestly at where you are, and choose one small thing to do differently today. Because small changes, repeated long enough, can quietly lead you somewhere completely new. Maybe right now, you feel like you're falling behind. Not because you aren't trying, but because life keeps moving faster. But not everyone walks the same path. And not everyone reaches the same destination at the same time. Some seasons aren't for breakthroughs. They're for endurance, for standing still long enough to change quietly. If you're still trying, still searching, still moving forward in your own way, then maybe you're not behind at all. Maybe you're just moving slower. And sometimes, moving slower is how you make sure you're going in the right direction. This story doesn't tell you where to go. It doesn't take your hand or point you in any direction. Because the answer has always been within you. Keep it safe. You may need it later in life.